Hey guys, if you're looking to order custom team apparel for this freestyle and Greco season, look at SpartanCombat.com. They're running a special right now on custom team apparel, whether it's for Fargo, the NHSCA duels, or your freestyle and Greco state. Please consider Spartan Combat. Go to SpartanCombat.com to place your order.
It's about, leaving Maywood and, beating poverty, beating a broken home, beating drug dealers, beating gang members who are recruiting you, because they know you're a tough kid.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. Our guest today is Reggie Wright, a two-time All American at Oklahoma State, a two-time Illinois State champ. He's also in the Illinois Hall of Fame. Reggie was recently featured in our latest audio documentary, Escape from Englewood, and his interview was fantastic, and I wanted to release it here for you folks to listen to. So this interview was recorded at my condo, of all places, last winter. Did not intentionally plan for this to go live as a standalone episode, but like I said, it's an amazing interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Fan of the week goes to Troy Seeley, a fan of ours on Twitter who rocked a Wrestling Changed My Life shirt this past week and posted about it. Thank you so much, Troy. We greatly appreciate it. This episode is presented by Spartan Combat, who's now running a special on custom team apparels for the freestyle and Greco season. Go to SpartanCombat.com to place your order for custom singlets, shirts, warm-ups, you name it, at SpartanCombat.com. Now, without further ado, let's give it up for Reggie Wright. All right, let's get started, my friend. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners. Who are we hearing from?
Okay, my name is Reggie Wright. I wrestled at Proviso East 1992 to 1996. Wrestled for the legendary Coach Bill Cartwright. He's a great coach, great motivator, great counselor. That's what I like to call him, the great counselor.
Why is that?
Because, a lot of our wrestlers, we were naturally just high-strung, and we really didn't need to get motivated, We didn't need any motivation to try to win, We needed to be calmed down, We needed to be calmed down and, kind of refocused and reset. And that's what he would do for us, is kind of calm us down and get us, focused again, So that's why I always call him the great counselor.
And who did you wrestle for in the IKWF?
IKWF, I wrestled for, head coach, I think, was Eddie Baker. He's actually the head coach at Proviso East right now. He was my first wrestling coach. And Eddie Baker wrestled with my uncle. My uncle just passed away, Raynard Wright. Eddie Baker wrestled with him, and Eddie Baker's brother wrestled with my father. So, it's just a lot of wrestling going on in the Proviso, Proviso Township. And I think, we're here to talk about Mount Carmel, but before Mount Carmel, I think the legacy was kind of Proviso. I think Mount Carmel kind of stepped in, and kind of took over kind of after Proviso had their little run. So
Tell me about the Proviso run.
Oh man, it was awesome. I mean, it was. I think it might have been a great run, but it was a little different because it was mainly done with kids that were from Maywood. You know, everybody was from Maywood. Everybody was from those 21 blocks. It's only 21 blocks. You know, and even the success that Oak Park had. A lot of those kids, their parents were from Maywood,
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of talent still, flowing up, maybe not in Maywood, but, originating in Maywood, but kind of like, you move. I mean, because Maywood is a tough place to live, and if you do better for yourself, you want to leave Maywood and you want to do better for your kids. So
that's something that's present growing up in Maywood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you said mostly kids from Maywood. Of course, Mount Carmel were known to be vicious recruiters. Is that something that was like well known back in the day, that Mount Carmel was recruiting from all over the city?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That was well known. It was well known. Yeah. I don't fault them for it. I mean, a lot of people have they have a sour taste in their mouth, but I mean, if I'm from poverty. I grew up poor. So I always tell people, or a wrestling dad, if you get a chance to do better for your kid, you should do better for him. Do better for him. I mean, who cares? Who cares what everybody's saying? Do better for your kid. I mean, I would do the same thing. So. And it gives you an opportunity. Give the kid an opportunity. I mean, so on and so forth. So I mean.
You mentioned Maywood's a tough area to grow up. What did you know about Tony's reality growing up in Englewood?
So it's funny that you say that because I think that just hearing about the Twisters and so I grew up hanging out with a lot of wrestlers. All right, but my friends were older wrestlers. Everybody was older than me. Everybody I hung out with, they were wrestlers and they were older than me, so they knew about things that I didn't know about. So they knew about the Twisters. So they would always tell these stories about, and I'd be like, oh, I wasn't even wrestling yet, and they would be like, oh yeah, when you wrestle the Twisters, it's going to be, it's going to be a tough thing to do. You might get pinned or you might get teched. I'm like, pinned or teched? Seriously? No way. I'm never going to get pinned. I'm never going to get teched. I was a proud guy, And I haven't even started wrestling yet, but I thought I was tough, you know what I mean? So, and they would always say Tony Davis or Steve Williams. They would always say Tony Davis or Steve Williams. When you meet Tony Davis or Steve Williams, something's gonna happen. And I'm like, nah, no way. You know what I mean? They're from the same place that I'm from. I mean, I had heard that I think Tony Davis was from Englewood area, and I'm familiar with the Englewood area. It's maybe similar to Maywood, So my older peers would always talk about, oh yeah, he's from where you're from, but he knows how to wrestle, and I was like, oh okay. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun, when we actually meet up. And when we met up, it was like, it wasn't really that fun, because what happened was, the way I would describe, the first time we wrestled is, he just beat me in every single position, And for me, that was kind of devastating because, I had an ego and, I felt like I was athletic. I could, beat some of the older kids. I was like in 6th grade. I could, wrestle with, high school kids and, I mean? I just prided myself on being athletic and a good wrestler. But, when I wrestled Tony Davis, it's like, it's like he like beat me in every single position. And like I was telling you before, when I first walked in, it was like, it was kind of demoralizing, it was demoralizing. And I did some soul searching, you know what I mean? And it was like, I can kind of remember the first time we wrestled. We wrestled at the Rosemont Horizon Classic. We wrestled at the Rosemont Horizon Classic. And it was the biggest tournament I had ever wrestled in my life. I was young. And I don't really remember all of the situations and all the positions, but I can just remember losing in every position and then me having kind of a panic attack. Like I'm panicking kind of out on the match. And at the time, my father was my coach. My dad was my coach. You know what I mean? He would be tough on me, right? He was tough on me. And I was panicking, like breathing. You know, I couldn't control my breathing. I'm like trying to wrestle and I'm crying and I can't breathe. I'm like, and then here's Tony, boom, he's going to score some more points on you, you know what I mean? He's all calm and smooth and slick. And I'm like, what is going on? And after the match, it was like, I think he probably beat me by 7 or 8 points or something. He kind of like beat me up, right? And I had a panic attack and I was like sitting there and I couldn't breathe. And then I can remember like my father taking my stuff and just throwing it at me, you know, and I was just sitting there crying and couldn't breathe. Like that's the feeling I can kind of still feel now, you know? And I think that kind of carried on, you know what I mean? That first beating, you know what I mean? And, you know, and I think it, you know, it kind of set the tone because it's like you don't want to feel like that again, ever. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you wrestle, you don't want to have to feel like that. So that was, you know, I think that's how we were attached like that. And, you know, I think maybe the next year we wrestled again. And my goal the next time we wrestled, I think it was at the Warhorse tournament, a big tournament, you know, big statewide tournament. And my goal was, I was like, maybe I'm not as good as him, but I'm going to win some positions, you know. My goal was to win 3 or 4 positions against him and, you know, make it, you know, an okay match, you know. And, you know, I think we were scrapping around. Nobody was scoring any points. And I found myself in my, you know, one of my strongest positions, you know, and in a near cradle. I was in a near cradle. I mean, I probably pinned Doug Schwab in a near cradle. You know, I pinned like national champions in a near cradle, you know, and but Tony had a near cradle too. We both had a near cradle. So, you know, I wasn't going to bail out of it. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm in a strong position. I think I'm going to get it. But Tony had it too. So it was like, it was so, you know, long story short, you know, I got stuck, you know. Yeah, he stuck me because his near cradle position was stronger than my near cradle position. So, you know, I mean, I didn't hyperventilate this time, you know. But one thing I did figure out is if I can limit the positions that we're in, I can win a match against him, you know. That's the one thing that I figured out. You don't want to get into a lot of positions with him, you know. Because he'll probably beat you in, you know, a majority of the positions that you're in, you know.
What made him so good as a kid?
I think that's another way we're connected. I think I don't think that he's wrestling just to wrestle and wrestling to be a champion. You know, I think he's wrestling against everything else. I think he's wrestling against poverty. You know, I think he's wrestling against the kids in his neighborhood and wrestling to try to get out of his neighborhood. Because, you know, to me personally, that's what I was doing. You know, they were the Twisters were a great barometer of kind of where I want to be athletically. If I can keep pace with them, I could be okay. I don't know if I can beat them, but I know I can be right there with them. You know, they're not that far ahead. You know, you know, if they're first, I'm second, kind of right there. Mm-hmm. But really, truly speaking, it's about, you know, leaving Maywood and, you know, beating poverty. You know, beating a broken home. Beating drug dealers, beating gang members who are recruiting you, you know what I mean, because they know you're a tough kid, and you're a recruit, you know. It's like, we want you with us because we know you can fight, we know you're tough and you got heart. They want you, you know. I could tell stories about, you know, being violated, you know. I'm violated because I don't want to fight, you know. I don't want to fight, I'm not getting kicked out of school, you know. And all of my other friends are kind of rushing another, you know, guy or, you know, another group of kids and they want to fight. And then I'm kind of like, you know, off to the side, like, not me, I'm not getting kicked out of school. And it's like, they can kind of see that you're not fighting and then you're in trouble from your friends, you know? Yeah. You know, so that kind of thing is like, I'd rather go and wrestle, you know? I can remember being violated kind of like that and then going to a big tournament with my like chest, like kind of like, you know, like almost caved in from getting punched in the chest, you know?
Like actually caved in.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, if you get violated, they hit you 50 times, You stand on a wall and, the big guy or whoever is violating you, they punch you in the chest. Boom, 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 boom. Like that. I can remember doing that and, getting violated and then have to go, wrestle at the Northern Plain Regionals or something at the national tournament, A couple of times it happened to me. So, and I know for a fact that Tony, kind of lived the same kind of lifestyle. He might not say it. He might not say it, but, we have similar backgrounds like that. So
when you're wrestling with that kind of chip on your shoulder, it brings a different kind of intensity.
A different kind of, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a different kind of intensity, but, you're able to let everything go. I mean, if you saw Tony when, me personally, I feel like when I saw him when he was younger, it seemed like he was just having fun, It's like, I'm not going to lose, you know what I mean? You could just let it all go because it's not really that important. And, I know I'm going to win, But, the thing that's scary is, I have to go back home kind of thing, And then I have to, like make sure that, nothing's happening, I mean, that I'm not a victim or something like that.
So, yeah, it makes sense. So, actually, it's the opposite. Like, as kids from farm town, like where I'm from, right. IWCOA State was such a big deal, you get nervous and choke. For Tony, it's like, or for folks like you're like, dude, that ain't shit.
That's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was awesome that he got to go before me because it's like, I would, you see Steve Williams and you see Tony Davis and it's like, oh, wow, these kids are from, they're from, tough neighborhood. I could just kind of mimic what they're doing. So they're just a model. At one point for me, they were just Steve and Tony, they were a model for me. And TJ, he was bigger than us when we were younger, he was bigger. Mm-hmm. He was a little bit bigger.
So tell me about the rumors of like Tony Davis and Steve Williams that were like built up at the kids tournaments back in those days. Because I read a quote that your coach said that like Tony Davis was an idol to these kids.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he could do anything. I mean, I think. Everybody looked up to him. Everybody looked up to Tony and Steve. I mean, nobody could beat them. I mean, they were just pinning everybody. They were. They would pin your idol, like a guy that's on Mike Powell's level, and everybody's looking up to him in the wrestling room. Somebody like Steve Williams would pin him. We had a guy, Herbert Howes. He used to wrestle for, he used to be around a lot because he, Fred Arkin was one of his coaches, and Fred Arkin was kind of affiliated with
Was it Bremen?
Bill Cartwright. No, Fred Arkin was in Bill Cartwright and Jim Cartwright. They're really close friends. So we would all go in each other's rooms, like wrestling room. We would go to Conant, you know what I mean? And, we would wrestle around with each other. So I would always see Herbert Howes, and I would go, oh, man, this guy is awesome. Herbert Howes was the man, And then I seen him wrestle Steve Williams, and Steve Williams pinned him. So I was like, oh. I was like, that's when I found out there was levels to wrestling. It's like, oh, wow. Yeah, there are several levels that you just don't know about. It's another level up here, It's like...
And Tony, was that kind of that level as well, of like rumor? And
yeah, it wasn't just a rumor. It wasn't a rumor. I found that out quickly, because I actually got a chance to go and wrestle on a national level. I didn't have the money to do it. A lot of people helped me out. And I actually did not want to do it. You know what I mean? I actually fought it. You know what I mean? But one of my mentors told me to kind of this will help you. And my father told me that this is what you probably need to do to stay out of trouble. So that was a tipping point. I'll do it because I can stay out of trouble, Mm-hmm. And a lot of my friends kind of went, they got in trouble over the summertime. That's the time to get in trouble. I was off wrestling, and I was wrestling. I wrestled like I think the first time I went and wrestled, I wrestled Kilgard and Will Kelly, two of the top kids in the country. I didn't feel when I wrestled them, I lost to them like barely. I didn't feel like I had, when I lost to them, I didn't feel like a loss to Tony Davis. You know what I mean? I feel like I could actually win majority of the positions. But when you wrestle a Tony Davis or a TJ, it's like you can't win any of the positions. You're wrestling the guys, and it's like you can't shoot in on them. You can't stop them from shooting in on you. You can't get away from them. You can't keep them down. It's like, what am I supposed to do? You know?
And the confidence coming out of the Twister room is like another level.
It's at another level. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they just exuded confidence. And I think they started at the kind of, you got TC Danzler and, and Steve Williams and Joe. I really didn't know Joe that well, but Steve and TC, yeah, they're confident. They exude confidence, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of trickles down to all of them. And it was great to see. It was a great feeling to, I wasn't even a Twister, and I could see it, and I could kind of relate to it. I could pick up on that energy. So it's like they were helping me in some, certain ways, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I like this. I might have to beat Tony, I might have to wrestle Tony, but hey, it's what it is, right?
What memories do you have of the IKWF state tournaments back in those days? Like, where was it at, and just brutal competition, or? Oh
yeah, it was tough. I mean, my first year, I think Jason Perro, he won my weight class, but Tony is the one who stuck out. Jason would win by 1 or 2 points. I think he beat Quintanilla or something like that by 1 or 2 points at my weight. But Tony's like Tech Falling the guy, in the finals. I'm like, who was that? Tony, you can see him all the way across it, I mean, every time he wrestled, everybody like gathered around, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a show. It's going to be a show. And he's wrestling a guy that's good. I think he might have wrestled like Jim Gahagan. I think he might have been a state champ or something too. He just like toyed with him. So yeah, those are the memories I have. That it was a lot of rumors about them and how good they were and kind of how they acted, with confidence. But they were all true. They weren't just rumors. It was the truth. It was the truth. Like somebody's telling you something like that, like, oh man, these guys are just awesome. They're the best you're going to see. And you think they're just kind of embellishing a little bit. And it's actually an exaggeration, but everything was true.
Damn.
Everything that they said about them were true.
Is it true that the Twisters, when they go to tournaments, they wouldn't talk to other kids? It was all business for them?
I had heard that, but Tony was not like that. Tony was he had more of a personality. I mean, I guess I didn't meet Tony when he was younger. I met him when he was a little older. I actually met TJ first, because we were roommates. But Tony was a more social. What's that?
We're roommates with TJ where?
At Lassen Junior College.
Oh, you went to Lassen?
Yeah.
I thought you went to Triton.
I went to Triton 1 year and wrestled, and then I was like, I can't be here. You know what I mean? I had to go and wrestle, you know what I mean? Some of the, better guys, and it was me, TJ, and Sonny Marchetti. We were roommates,
Dude, I heard Sonny Marchetti was a killer, bro.
Tough, yeah.
From Walsh. So, but you were just saying that Tony, though, had a little bit more personality to him.
He had a personality. He was a talker, I mean, I'm the same way. It's like, hey, we have so much in common, It's like, it was awesome. It was awesome to see that he was kind of like, lighthearted, and he would talk and crack jokes and things like that, But what I had heard is that they didn't talk to people, but I couldn't see that was part of Tony's personality. I'm sure you've talked to him, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's
like a swindler, man. He's so fun. Like, he's just, man, we have a blast talking to him. Yeah, it's like, and a lot of people, I interviewed a Mount Carmel coach last week, Ron Oglesby.
Oh, yeah.
And he was telling me, like, Steve and Tony were like charisma.
Yeah, right. That's
Joe
right.
was like real low energy, but TJ is right in the middle. But Tony and Steve were like almost the same.
That's right. Yep. That's right. That's what I got from it. Yep. That's what I got from it. And yep.
So tell me about, in the 90s in Chicago and area, violence just skyrocketed. Was that something you noticed living here, or was violence just always prevalent in like Maywood and Englewood and those kind of areas?
It was always prevalent, you know. I mean, it's just something we had to live with and had to deal with, and that was just the thing, you know. I mean, that's the thing that you have to focus on. You have to make sure that you're safe first, you know. Then you can do the other things. You can, you know, focus on wrestling and, you know, and becoming a national champion and things like that. But me personally, you know, it was even when I got to Oklahoma State, it was like, you know, it was easy to kind of transition because it's like, you know, what's the alternative? You know what I mean? You're going to either win here or you're going to go back home. And every week I was getting calls, you know, from my mother or my father saying that, oh, one of your best friends just got killed. You know, one of your best friends, you know, just got locked up for 20 years or 15 years or something. And it's like, oh, I don't want any parts of that, you know? So it's like, you know, it's either go and do this or go and do that, you know? I mean, even if you're not that kind of guy, you know, I mean, poverty is just that, you know? It's like, what are you going to do? I mean, you hear stories all the time about, you know, guys get caught with guns, you know? But if you live, you know, in a place where, you know, everybody has guns, how do you not have a gun, you know? It's like, what are you going to do? So you're going to get yourself in trouble just, you know, just by trying to protect yourself. I mean, yeah, so I mean.
It's funny you say that because Tony said, like, during the summer, like, you know, he would go to Mount Carmel all year round, prestigious all-boys school, wearing uniforms. But in the summer, it would be like a double life where he wouldn't even, you know, no cell phones back then. So he's not like hanging out with Milton Blakely and TJ in the summer. He was like doing whatever he had to do to survive.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's how Mayweather was. It was no double. We didn't have a double. I didn't have a double life.
You weren't going to like the Catholic school. You were going to the public school. Yeah.
I go over here to the public school, you know, and, you know, I mean, sometimes you get out, you know, you get out of school and, you know, man, pop, 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 pop. You know, hear gunshots right on the corner where the school is, you know.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it is now, you know, but.
Let's jump to high school, the great Assembly Hall.
Yeah.
The word brings a chill to the bone for many of us. Yeah. Certainly myself, I'm sure you. I did not know that your first 2 years, you did not win a match at the state tournament.
No. Yeah, that's true. My freshman year, I was, you know, at the wrong weight class. I think I was at 119 or something. I think Tony was at 103.
Yeah.
But I think he had a hernia. But it's like 2 weight classes up. I mean, we were always the same size. That's what I'm saying. We were always, so I was never anywhere close to 103. You know what I mean? I wrestled 119 and I wrestled 125 sometimes. It's like, this is how much I weigh. I weigh 120. You know what I mean? I don't even weigh 120 sometimes, but we had other guys. We had Corey Frazier. He was I think he was in the state finals against Lindsey Durlocker the year before, and he couldn't make 103 again, so he was at 112, and then I couldn't make 103, so I had to go 119. So.
But then your sophomore year,
undefeated,
the toughest quarterfinal in state history, bro.
The toughest quarterfinal in state history. Yeah, it was tough.
I mean, because Micah Hay, returning state champ.
It was tough.
So before we get there, tell me, like, when I mentioned the word Assembly Hall, what kind of emotions does that evoke?
Well, for me personally, you know, everything's kind of attached to, you know, my personal and social life, you know. So when I think about Assembly Hall, I think about my friends that got killed, you know, and I think about, you know, I mean, I had a lot of wrestlers. I didn't make any other friends, really close friends, but wrestlers. And I don't have, you know, none. I mean, they're all, you know, have Corey Frazier's dead, LaJuan Gray's dead, Stanley Evans dead. You know, gun violence, all gun violence, all state place winners. Illinois state place winners. I just named state place winners. They were on my team. They're dead. You know, Jermaine White. You know, 20 years and going away for 20 years. You know what I mean? These are my wrestling. These are my partners. You know, so it's like, you know, I wasn't even the best one out of the group. You know, I could name 4 or 5 people that are, you know, probably dead or in prison. That, you know, I actually used to spar with, and I wasn't even, you know, I'm not even ranked 1 or 2, out of those guys. So for me, it's like, I'm there, and I think about, Assembly Hall, and I'm like, I'm kind of just representing, carrying the torch here, you know what I mean? I'm carrying the torch. I mean, not even only them, the people kind of before them, I kind of think about them too. Because, you remember I talked about how it was a Proviso East dynasty and a legacy. All of those people are kind of not here anymore, you know what I mean? A lot of them, it's a couple here and there, that are still around, but most of them are kind of gone away. So it's like, you're carrying the torch, for my father, for my uncle, for everybody else, kind of, so, I can kind of detach from, that emotion, you know what I mean? And I didn't win those first 2 years, and mainly because I was always in a tough weight class. I'm always with Tony, and
tell us about that sophomore year bracket.
Oh man, so I can tell you about the bracket, but the build up to it was kind of the build up was huge because it was like, I was kind of ready. I feel like I was ready. I wrestled all summer. I wrestled all summer, and I wrestled Kelly and Kilgard and all those guys, and I was like, oh man. Tony might be able to beat these guys, you know what I mean? But we'll see, you know what I mean? But I never got a chance to get my hands on Tony. I actually got chickenpox. I got chickenpox that year. I never tell that story because, Michael Hay beat me. He beat me fair and square. He, took me down, But the story that I never tell, and, it's the first time I'm actually telling it, is 3 weeks before the regionals, I got chickenpox. I didn't wrestle. I mean, my sister got chickenpox, and then I got it like 2 days later. And I'm just laying there for like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And then the regionals, I almost lost at the regionals. I almost got bumped out of the regionals that year. Yeah. I mean, I was undefeated, but I'm beating a guy that I could tech fall. I think I got put in a Splato or something. You know what I mean? I was about to get stuck. You know what I mean? I'm like losing to a guy that I could tech, and then. It was tough. I mean, Micah Hay was tough. He was a returning state champ. And you had Tony Davis in there, and Micah took me out, and I was like, oh man, I'm out of the bracket because there's no way in the world he's gonna beat Tony. But they were like in double overtime. I was sitting there like, oh, I'm not gonna make weight.
What happened in the Micah Hay Tony match? Do you remember any of it?
They were scrapping. I mean, Micah Hay slowed Tony. He slowed him down really good. You know what I mean? It was like nothing going on. It's like I don't even think Tony got a takedown or anything. I think it was like 1-1, like double overtime. But then Tony, he ended up like getting a 5-point move at the end, kind of put him on his back at the end in double overtime. But it was a close match. It was a nail biter. Yeah, Mike was tough. He was tough.
How would you describe his style versus Tony's style?
Oh man, it was like he was more like Tirapelli, strong and good in position and in control, and he was a lot shorter, so it was hard for Tony to get to him. I could tell.
And Tony's more of a quick wrestler, would you say, or?
Tony, he could do everything. He was quick. I mean, sometimes he could be quick. He could be explosive. He could be powerful. he could do everything. He could beat you in. I mean, he could. He was good everywhere.
And that AA bracket, man, because when I was in it, it was two divisions, just like you were mentioning. That Friday night quarterfinal round, place was electric.
Man, yeah, it was tough. Yeah. And then you had Elijah Roberts was in there too. He was tough. He was really good.
He'll rip a neck off.
Yeah. He would put you in that neck wrench. Yeah, he'll get you. But he was tough. I think he beat me in junior college. Elijah Roberts did. Yeah. I underestimated him. because I thought all he could do was this thing. And I was like, he can't get me in that,
So how did the, not placing your sophomore year after going undefeated, how did that motivate you going into that offseason?
Not placing, that was tough. That was a tough time. That was a tough time because I was going through some things, outside of, the wrestling mat and, getting into trouble and things like that, so, I actually, I focused a little bit more, I did a little bit more wrestling, I didn't play football the next year, and I mean, it was just, I knew me and Tony, we were on a collision course to, to that finals. We were on a collision course. It really didn't matter, if we got, if we got drawn on the same side of the bracket or not. It was like, I'm going to have to take him out, but, really it wasn't about trying to take him out. It was about, again, trying to win, as many positions as you can, with him, and then kind of limit the positions that you're actually in 100%. You know what I mean? So,
what were some of the positions you wanted to get into and also wanted to avoid with Tony?
One thing you didn't want was you didn't want to spend too much time on the bottom. I think Tony is, people underestimate how good he is on top. He's really good on top. As good as he is from neutral, I feel like, where his strongest position is on the top, because, I think one year he, turned Terrapelli over at the national tournament. He had him in a banana split or something. I was like, what? Seriously? It's like, I can't hold this guy down and save my life. Tony's got him in a banana split.
His leg riding was unreal.
Yep. He was a little bit longer than I was. Him and TJ were a little bit longer, maybe an inch. You know what I mean? But that's huge. That's huge in wrestling. But man, just good everywhere. I mean, I don't think he was that good upper body. I think that's why I had a slight advantage over both, TJ and Tony. I had a slight advantage there, but it's hard to, get people in there and keep them in there. So it's like, but, that bottom, you didn't want to stay on that bottom too long. You didn't want to do too much scrambling because he'd get you and, it wouldn't be just, he would get, it wouldn't be, he's going to get 2 points. He's probably going to get a pin, The more, so the one thing about Tony and TJ and Joe, and I could pride myself on it too. The more you wrestle Tony, the more he's going to kind of beat you up, The more points he's going to score on you, you know what I mean? The more positions you're going to, you're going to open yourself up, and you're going to look up, it's going to be 20-7 or something.
His defense was so good. Like, people would shoot, and his spin behind was just crazy.
Yeah, somebody that's just like him, Darian Caldwell's just, they're kind of the same, similar styles. The more you wrestle against them, the uglier it's going to get, So I figured that out really early, 7th grade.
So when you're going into that season, I got to imagine all year, the message, not that there's message boards, but people all year were hyping up for you and Tony to be in the finals. Would you say that's fair? Like, the hype going into that junior year state was big?
Yeah. Well, so I didn't know if he was going to be at that weight. I knew it was a possibility, but I didn't find out for sure that he was going to be at that weight class to maybe January. And somebody came back, I think Gertie's or Ben Gertie's or something came back and told me, hey, Tony's at this weight too. You guys are both at the same weight. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Because, you just never know what weight people are going to be at. Because I'm wrestling, sometimes I would wrestle 140, 145, I float around. But, in January, you're at your weight class, that you're going to wrestle for state. So, but from January, that whole month, it was a lot of hype. It was like, you guys are like on a collision course, But so it was a lot of hype, and I welcomed it. I was going to win some. I was going to win some of the actual positions,
And once you guys finally got down there, it's Saturday night. You're in the tunnel. Do you have any memories of being in the tunnel, or the last moments before you're walking out to step on the mat?
Yeah. I can remember I was listening to Tupac. I was listening to the Tupac, All Eyes on Me, I hadn't won a match, So it was like, I'm in the finals now, I know I could have, won matches before that year, but, I hadn't. So it was like, I didn't have anything to lose, But, at that time, that match, it was so big, and like just looking back at it now, it's like, I didn't realize that, I was kind of wrestling to save my life, That was a match I was wrestling to save my life, and I can, almost say the same thing about Tony. I mean, that match, everybody saw it, everybody knew kind of how good Tony was, but then, we're out there scrapping in front of everyone. So it's like, we're wrestling out of poverty, we're wrestling, to see and experience things that we had never experienced, if we wouldn't wrestle, I get a chance to travel the country and, meet people I wouldn't, never met, if you're just used to those 21 blocks that I'm from, Maywood, you don't see any, you don't have a model of, what you should be doing, everybody that was my model, it's like they did the wrong thing, even adults. I had a lot of adults around me that were doing the wrong thing.
That's what Tony told me. He's like, you'd be surprised how many parents had like crack problems back then.
Right, yeah.
They just totally weren't around.
They're doing drugs. It's like, I know I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Tell me what's right. You don't see anybody that's doing right that looks like you. You know what I mean? You see Cartwright and you see his family. He's living, kind of, in River Forest. I don't live in River Forest.
Right.
But, he's awesome. You know what I mean? He was always there, come pick me up from a bad neighborhood. He'd pull up in his car in Maywood, in St. Charles, and he'd come pick you up. But
So the stakes are so high in that match, your junior year. Tell me about the Grand March.
Oh, man, it was awesome. It was electrifying. It was like, stay focused, stay focused, stay focused, because that's the biggest thing is, the level of focus, If you could, you have to stay focused for a long time, or you'll lose it all if you lose your focus. That's one thing that happened to me in college, I lose my focus sometimes in matches, so. How
would you describe the Grand March to someone who's never been to the Illinois State Tournament?
Oh, man, it's just, it's electrifying, It's like, you can't let that, you can't let the situation get too big because you won't wrestle,
They turn the lights out and everything?
They turn the lights out and, It's like you got the guy standing right across from you, you might, you got greatness, on both sides of you. You got other state champions, you see, TJ Williams, he's a 4-star. You can get starstruck really easily. It's like, am I supposed to be here? Am I inadequate? Am I imposter? Am I supposed to be here? Some guys make it to the mat and, and they get pinned or tagged. They might be an imposter, Right. What you don't want is you don't want to get embarrassed out there, you know what I mean? So,
and Illinois was so deep at that time.
It was deep. You could get embarrassed, yeah. Get embarrassed.
So when you're like moments from stepping out there, the match before you's already done, are you having any self-doubts or are you focusing in at that point?
I was locked in. I always say things happen for a reason. I was prepared, mentally and spiritually, because, I was hurt, those first 2 years, so it was just like something that was ordained. I was going to win, I was like put in a position to win, even if I didn't want to, because I was so hurt those 2 years, It was just so much inside me, in my heart, it was going to come out eventually, So,
Did you see Tony in the warm-up area at all before that match?
I remember seeing him coming off the mat a couple of times. But I feel like I was, so focused and so locked in, and it was my time. I even did things to lose the match and give it back to him. I could see it when I watched it. I was like, I almost gave the match back a couple of times, and it's like, what am I doing here, But it was just like, it was my time, it was time.
It's like when you watch that, you know, if someone's never watched this match,
Yeah.
like how would you describe that sequence there?
Well, he beat me. That was one of my strongest positions, you know. That's how I took him down at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I took him down with a duck at the end, but in the beginning of the match, it doesn't work. So I'm trying to get into my strongest positions, you know, but not too many of them. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard to describe wrestling somebody like him. I can describe my matches with TJ because they're kind of, you know what I mean? I can understand why, you know what I mean? But with Tony, he's so athletic, it's like he's going to beat you in all the positions, you know?
You were so deep on that high dive. It's like,
doesn't work.
Damn. And then, second period, you rode him the whole time. Was that strategy going into it?
I'm good on top, you know? Yeah. I'm pretty good on top, you know? I mean, Tony's good on top too, you know? I thought I rode him out, you know? But, you know, it kind of went against me. I think we were in 4 or 5 positions, you know? I think we probably split, you know, and then I got that last position, you know, that reversal, you know what I mean?
Tell me about the reversal.
That's something I couldn't plan. I don't even know what happened. I was just trying to get my hips out, you know? I don't know. It was like seconds left. It's like, I'm just trying to get my hips out, you know? I just wasn't going to stop moving. I was going to get my hips out. You know, I'm usually pretty good right there, you know? Like getting my hips out and kind of, you know, sometimes I do a flip or a roll, you know, but, you know, just get your hips out. You don't have any time. Get your hips out, you know.
Tell me about the shot before that where Tony scored. You kind of took a half shot and he just had such a quick go behind.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably thought that iced the match because he's up by 2 then.
Yeah.
And like you said, that reversal brings you back in.
Right.
So, like, do you have any memories of that? Like,
Yeah.
Tell me about that sequence.
I think it's a kind of a poise thing, you know what I mean? That's what kind of separates me from Tony a little bit, you know what I mean? And maybe TJ too, you know what I mean? They have better poise than I do, you know? It's like, okay, so I'm in a close match and I'm kind of controlling the match, but then I lose my poise and I take a shot like that, you know what I mean? Tony's good right there. He doesn't make those kind of mistakes, you know? He wouldn't do something like that. So it's like, it's just a poise thing, you know? It's just something you can't really even coach or teach, you know? You have poise or you don't have poise, really, right? So that's what, I mean, you know, just reflecting on it now, I'm thinking that, you know, that's why Tony was a national champion, you know? And that's why TJ was a national champion, because they have a little bit better poise, you know?
So here we get to overtime. What emotions does that bring back?
Yeah, that brings back everything, you know, all the work that I had put in, and, you know, all the hurt and pain that I had felt, and, you know, it was kind of worth it, you know, for that moment. So, yeah, it was awesome. It was an awesome feeling. And even though, you know, everybody says that duck under was what iced it, but, you know, what I saw was, you know, I'm in a duck, but I still don't have him. He still didn't fall yet. I still had to do a bear hug. I had to, you know, it was like a lot of improvising to get him down to the mat, you know? So it's like, was he tired? I don't know. You know, so if he was fresh, would I have gotten him down? You know, I don't know. But, you know, it was my time, and it was an awesome fit. I mean, it was great. It was great. But, you know, I always say that, you know, for him, you know, for me, that was kind of what put me on the map. That was the start of, you know, of me. You know, that was the start of my upward trajectory, you know, going to Oklahoma State and, you know, wrestling my way out of poverty and, you know, not going to jail, not getting in trouble, you know, because, you know, I always tell people, you know, I'm a teacher now, you know what I mean? And I always tell kids you have to have a growth mindset. And, you know, I always kind of go back to my wrestling days, and I always say, hey, I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the fastest. You know, when I was a kid growing up, I wasn't the best looking. You know what I mean? I didn't have the most money. You know what I mean? You know, I didn't have the best personality, the most likable personality. But, you know, if you just, you know, keep trying at something and, you know, trying to better yourself, you know, I mean, there's always room for growth, So I feel like, because I didn't have anything, I didn't have anything that people liked. I didn't have kind of any qualities that people liked. I had to have something.
Yeah.
So that was my something, I won state,
And I read an interview, you described it as an emotional high. Would you say that's fair to say?
Emotional high, yeah. It was emotional high, yeah.
And then after that, that's actually the last match Tony Davis ever wrestled in state.
I heard,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So do you remember hearing that Tony had been removed from Mount Carmel and wasn't wrestling?
I heard about that. Yeah. I heard about that. And, when I heard that, I kind of, you would think that I would feel relieved, but I didn't, because what I felt was, I felt anxiety because, am I next? You know what I mean? I'm this close to being kicked out of school too. See, people don't know that, right? I'm not when I was younger, I had problems, things happen. I live, I live right in the middle of, everything that was happening. So, I'm this close to being put out, I didn't, my ACT wasn't high enough, people, there were still gang fights. My best friends were still engaging in, illegal activities and, wanting me to be engaged in them. I'm not having the best relationship with teachers in school. So I'm like, knock on wood. It's like Tony's out, but that's kind of the last thing on my mind now. Now it's easy. Like, if I can make it to the mat, I'm going to, it's going to be an easy thing to do. But I'm not really thinking about Tony. I feel like,
Did anyone ever wonder why he had left, since he was one of their headlining stars?
Yeah. I wondered, and I knew people that knew some people that knew him, and they kind of told me what happened and things like that, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him.
Were you guys friends, you and Tony? Or
I didn't. We didn't know each other yet. We didn't know each other yet. I met him maybe after I met him personally, maybe our junior year in college. Yeah. But I knew people who knew a lot of the twisters. My older group, they knew a lot of the twisters, like Michael Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Douglas and the older and T.C. Danzler,
Sanford,
yeah. So my coaches knew their coaches.
Got it.
And they were like, oh, well, Tony's over at Englewood High and he's trying to get back in school and all that. And I was like, well, keep me posted.
What kind of place is Englewood High compared to Mount Carmel?
Oh, it's a private, it's a public school. It would be like Proviso East, It would be metal detectors. You know what I mean? Well, my junior year, that's when they put metal detectors in. My freshman and sophomore year, we didn't have metal detectors. So my freshman and sophomore year at Proviso East, it would be kind of common for the police to find a gun in the school, a gun or a knife or something like that in the school.
And Englewood had similar problems?
I'm pretty sure, probably worse, probably a little worse, So yeah, Tony's over there at Englewood, That's what I heard. Yeah, I don't even really know for sure. We talk all the time now.
Yeah.
We played chess and all of that.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So you come out of Illinois, the shark-infested waters of wrestling. You make a name for yourself. You get to Juco. How would you describe the Juco scene versus the D1 scene in terms of the kids who were going there? And I guess what I'm getting at is I don't know if you've seen Last Chance U on Netflix. It's about this junior college football program in Mississippi that sends more people to the NFL than most D1 schools.
Oh, yeah.
And it's listen, kids come here because the system either failed them or they got overlooked or whatever. So, that's just kind of wondering, Juco versus D1, what does it look like to you when you compare it like that?
Oh, when I was there? Oh, wow. So, we had, it was still TJ and Tony there. All my life, I've been surrounded by them. You know what I mean? You beat them, you have to go through them to win, So it doesn't matter if we were in Juco, junior high wrestling, it didn't matter. You had to always go through TJ or Tony to win something. So it's like, I tell this story,
I was at Triton, and I had just kind of came off that state championship, and, you know, I had teched my way through the whole season, you know what I mean? Because, you know, it was, you know, just me and Tony, right? So, and I kind of feel invincible because, you know, I would, you know, even I went to Fargo, and I only lost to TJ, you know, at Fargo. And I was like, okay, so, you know, what's going to happen in Juco, you know? So it's going to be kind of easy, right? And I get to the first tournament, and I start warming up. I'm warming up, and I'm looking. I like look to the side, and I was like, "This is Milton Blakely right here. Like, why is Milton Blakely over here?" I'm like running. I ran again, ran another circle. Then I was like, "Huh!" I thought I saw a ghost, and it was Tony Davis putting his shoes on. I was like, a ghost. He was in the. I was like, hold on, time out. Nobody had told me he was in the bracket. So I was like, time out. Tell me he's not in my weight class. I go over to the bracket, and I'm like, oh no, he's in my bracket, right? I'm like, he didn't wrestle last year. You know what I mean? He couldn't be too tough. He didn't wrestle last year. And nobody was really thinking about us, you know, me and him, you know what I mean? Because there was another guy in the bracket, and they thought he was the better guy because he was a little older, Todd Buckland or something from Iowa. I guess he was like one of the best recruits from Iowa or something like that at the time. He was a little bit bigger than us. And everybody was like, oh, Todd Buckland. I wasn't thinking about Todd Buckland. I was like, Tony Davis is over there putting his shoes on. I'm not worried about Todd Buckland, right? And it's like, Tony Davis is in the bracket, and Todd Buckland, me and Todd Buckland, we're on the same side of the bracket. And then Alan Cartwright, he was in the bracket too. You know what I mean? So it was a tough bracket, like that first junior college tournament that I wrestled. And
Did you wrestle Tony?
I wrestled Tony in the finals. You know. Kind of like right after I wrestled Todd Buckland in the semifinals, I beat him in an overtime. And it was like, okay, so now I got Tony. And we wrestled the same kind of match. I don't think, you know, to this day, I don't even think he wrestled. I don't think he ever stepped back on the mat. Like, he didn't wrestle for a year. I wrestled a lot of matches. I wrestled 44 matches. I wrestled 44 regular season matches. Then I went to Fargo and wrestled another 20-something matches. I went to Northern Plain Regionals, wrestled 20 matches. So I probably have 100 matches. And Tony didn't wrestle. I wrestled 100 matches, and Tony didn't wrestle no matches, and we went in overtime. I'm like, what?
Who won?
I won. I beat him, but it was the same kind of match. The same match as we had, you know, my junior year, our junior year. It's like, got to take him down to beat him. You know, he's in on stuff. He's almost taking you down. It's the same kind of match.
What kind of ring rust did he have?
What's that?
What kind of ring rust did he have?
Oh, he wasn't rusty. He didn't have any rust. You know. Because, he was in the finals. I mean, it was a tough tournament. He was in the finals. Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, it's just he's the kind of guy that he's going to beat you in every position, you know. And, you know, you have to limit your positions. The more you wrestle him, you know, the more he's going to score. The more you slow it down. If you slow the tempo down, it could be 4-4, you know, because I think he might have beat Alan Cartwright in the semifinals, maybe 9-7. You know what I mean? Like that. You know what I mean? Because it's a slow pace. But if it's fast pace, he's probably, you know, he's going to come out on top, and he's going to have a lot more points than you, you know?
Do you remember watching him at the Juco Nationals at all?
He wasn't at my weight, but yes. Yeah, I saw him wrestle. Yeah. We were actually supposed to be at the same weight. And I sprained my ankle at a tournament, and then I came back and I was kind of big, you know? And it was like, I just stay up here at 40. I think they just changed the weight classes then, you know?
Because he was at 34 his first year.
34, yeah.
And then 42 his second year.
Right.
So when did you guys wrestle in the dual Triton Iowa Central? Was that another time?
No, it was that year.
That was that time?
Yeah. Just the first tournament of the year. It was the first tournament. But he was at 42. He was at my weight, you know.
Got it. And when was the next time you guys wrestled from there?
Oh, wow. The next time we wrestled from there.
Was it the Oklahoma State duel?
Oklahoma State duel. Yep.
So tell me about the jump between Juco and D1 Wrestling.
The jump between Juco and D1. It's just you. So the biggest thing is the level of intensity. You know, I mean, it's just you just had to hold positions a little bit longer, and you had to kind of match your opponent's intensity. You know, so that's the one thing that I kind of noticed right off the bat of D1 and Juco, because when I was in Juco personally, when I was at Lassen, we were wrestling D1 guys anyway. I think I beat the guy that was number 2 or 3 in the country, Troy Marr, when I was in junior college. I'm sure that TJ was beating number 1 and 2 guys when he was at Lassen too. I mean, we were taking those guys out already. I think Tony had beat Oscar Woods or something.
Yeah.
I know he was like 2 or 3 in the country, D1. We were in Juco taking those guys out already. So it's just like the level of intensity. And then another big thing is you had to learn different ways to beat people, because, the biggest thing for me was that you had to beat a guy more than 1 or 2 or 3 times, a good guy, So I had to wrestle Jared Lawrence. I wrestled Jared Lawrence maybe 8 times. How are you going to beat somebody of that caliber 8 times,
Mm-hmm.
I probably beat him 7, you know what I mean? But 8, I didn't beat him 8. I beat him 7 times. I had to wrestle Jared Frere probably 13 times because we're in the same conference. It's like, I'm going to see you every week.
What about the difference in like workload and like training and practices they put you through? Is there a lot more difference there?
Okay, so that's what people, take for granted. Okay, so somebody like TJ or Tony or a top level guy like that, they have the capacity, for that. You know what I mean? That's nothing. I mean, it's gonna hurt at first, but you can't break them down. You can't break us down. I thought that at first when they said go out and run 7 miles, I was like, go out and do what? I can't do that. You know what I mean? But then you go and do it, and it's like, oh, okay. I might be a little sore, but the next day, you know what I mean? I can go run 7 miles again. So, I feel like we kind of, we had those bodies where you can just, do anything to it, So.
And then when you got to Oklahoma State, you're on a team with some really high level names: Jamil Kelly, yourself, obviously, Mark Munoz, DC. Tell us about the pride and legacy that goes in for wrestling for Oklahoma State.
Oh man, it's huge. It was huge. It was a great thing, but it has its pros and cons. If I could do it again, I might have chose a different route. I made some great relationships with Jamil and Munoz and Cormier, Shane Roller. Young guys that came through, Chris Pendleton, Hendricks, Espo, all of those, It's great to see that, but it's almost like, okay, so I'm a teacher now, right? So it's like, and I'm a parent, right? So I always tell my wife, what I want most for my daughter, small class sizes. You know what I mean? Because when you get small class sizes, you have more attention, each student gets more attention. If you have, 10 to 15 Tony Davises on on your team, it's like, what kind of individual attention am I going to get,
Is there a lot of like fan support behind wrestling for Oklahoma
State? Man, it was great. It's almost like you didn't really need to be coached, because it's like, you're going to win because you don't want to let anybody down or get embarrassed. You know what I mean? It's an embarrassing thing to kind of go out there and lose, So, but it was awesome. The prestige was awesome. The people love wrestling, whatever you wanted, you got it. You know what I mean? Whatever training partner you wanted, you had it. Whatever film you wanted, you got it. Whatever gear you want, just go ask John for whatever you wanted. You know what I mean? It's like,
What kind of relationship did you have with John Smith?
Me and John were, we were good. We were good.
But I was, my guy was Mark Perry. That was my guy, because you can always tell that John was kind of working an angle on something, He was like, he would be talking to you. It's like, John, come on, man, I'm from Chicago, man. I understand that you're trying to coach, but you're not the great counselor. You're not Coach Cartwright. Coach Cartwright was really kind of like, real subtle. You know what I mean? I don't know if you talk to him, but he's like a real subtle guy. You know what I mean? You can't really tell because he never goes up or down, But John, you can kind of get a read on him really quickly because he's like a fireball, So if he's calm, it's like, oh, okay. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do, right?
It's funny you say that because like Bill Wick's probably the same way, like very like under the real cool.
Yeah, real cool.
One in.
Yeah, and then he'll get you like a subtle beast, right?
So tell me about the duel itself between you and Tony at Gallagher senior night. If you have any memories of that one.
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely do.
Walk us through it, yeah.
Yeah, same kind of match. You gotta, I'm getting myself back on track because I think I had lost a match at the national duels. That's the biggest thing. I go right back to that and I say, the toughest thing is you have to keep beating tough guys over and over again. So I think I might have wrestled Jared Lawrence maybe in a duel in major decision, beat him by a major decision. Mm-hmm. Then you go to the national duels, you got to wrestle him again next week.
And even against you and I, which may be an easy team on the schedule.
Right, but you got Tony Davis coming into town, and it's like, are you serious? So I think I had lost to a Jared Lawrence, and it was kind of crushing blow because every time I lost, I kind of like emotionally, it would kind of like I would get real low, you know what I mean? I didn't lose many matches, but if I lost, it was kind of tough, So I lost, and it was like it wasn't getting any easier for me, you know what I mean? Because Tony Davis is coming to town in a couple of weeks. It's like the number one guy in the country is coming into town. You just lost to the number 6 guy, so where are you? You got to do some soul searching. So it was a chance for me to do that soul searching. And for me to run stadium stairs and, tighten up my game and he's a great barometer again. I've used Tony as a barometer for me, all throughout my whole career. If I'm doing well, if I'm wrestling well, I can beat him, you know what I mean? But if I'm not wrestling well, I can get beat up really bad. So it's like you have to pick your game up and it's just a chance for you to, pick your game up, and that's what happened. I'm trying to win positions against a guy that that he doesn't like give up positions. So it's like I found myself in three or four positions, and then I won the last position, and I took him down, and my confidence was up again. You know what I mean? I think he won the Nationals that year. Yeah, he won the Nationals that year.
He did. Yeah. He beat Terry Plant in the finals.
He won it.
Do you remember what takedown he used to get him?
Single leg, yeah. Single leg.
And was it late in the match?
Yeah, late. Always late in the match, Last position is going to win. Every time we wrestle, you have to win the last position, That's what's going to happen. And, I think my last matches after that, I was beating guys, I think, I was beating like a Frere, usually I'd be Frere by 4 or 5 points. I think I might have beat him by 10 the next match because I'm like, hey, I just beat Tony Davis, So.
What was your reaction to Tony going to UNI?
So I think that he did the right thing. Like I said, if I can go back and do it again, I think he made, the best decision for him. I think he was somebody counseled him. Somebody gave him the right counsel,
His college coach
because
told him, don't get lost in the shuffle.
What's that?
His college coach told him, don't go to Iowa, you'll get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, so that's right. So he went in Manning. Everything I hear from him and, from him about Manning and everything I hear about Manning, from other people is like he's a kind of a father figure kind of guy, And that's what somebody from somewhere like Englewood or Maywood, that's what we need. You know what I mean? And that's why I say that, Oklahoma State was a great place to wrestle. You know what I mean? I wouldn't change it for the world, but did I make the right decision? Who knows?
But
I can't believe
he nurtured.
Didn't wrestle for Mark Johnson at Illinois.
What's
man.
that?
I'm so bummed all you guys didn't wrestle for Mark Johnson at Illinois, man.
Yeah.
Ernest Binion.
Mark was awesome. I heard you. I mean, he had Terrapelli. You know.
True. I mean, that's how tough those weights were.
Yeah, he had Terrapelli, and so I signed with him. I signed with Illinois, and then I didn't pass the clearinghouse, so I had to go to junior college.
Tell us about. Just 2 quick questions, and then we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about wrestling Terrapelli and like what he was really good at, and like his style.
Yeah. He must have watched film on me because he kind of had my style shut down, you know. But I feel like I was ready for him my senior year because that's the only person that was, you know, Tony was gone. You know what I mean? Tony was gone. I didn't have to go through Tony. You know what I mean? So I hadn't lost a match, and I was, you know, ready for Terrapelli. But, you know, what Terrapelli did is he had this, he was really strong, but he was athletic too. And he doesn't get the notoriety for that, but he was athletic. He was really athletic. He was strong and athletic. He had strong legs, hips, and everything. And he was a tough guy, you know, for me to beat because he wasn't the guy that I singularly focused on. You know, it was always somebody that I thought would beat him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I always had to kind of go through him, you know, for some reason, you know.
What about
But
TJ?
he was tough.
How would you describe like wrestling TJ? Like what was his style like?
TJ was TJ was strong in left-handed. He was left-handed, you know. People don't notice about TJ. He's left-handed. He does things the other way, but he's strong. You know, usually I don't have problems wrestling people that are left-handed because they're not usually as strong as he is. You know what I mean? But he was strong and he was left-handed, so he'd be close to your leg like from the beginning. You know what I mean? He'd be right there, so you had to be like, hold on, wait. Time out. Let me back up a little bit because you're too close to me already. You know what I mean? So, but what it was with him is, you know, his hips were just like impossible to penetrate. You couldn't, you know, I couldn't, you know, I don't know anybody that really ever penetrated his, you know, his hips. You know, like if you shoot in on him, you're not going to score. You know, you had to find another way to score against him. You know, and he's going to be methodical. But he's not really going to do much. He's going to stay in really, really good position. Kind of just like Terrapelli. But, you know, if TJ starts a move, he's going to get you. You can't let him start a move, you know. You can't let him start his move because, you know, you can't stop him. He's like a steamroller, right?
Would you say Tony, the college wrestler, was a more wide open wrestler than TJ? Or could score in more different ways?
He could score in more different ways, but not against TJ. He could score in more ways against an average person or above average person. But TJ doesn't give it up. You know, he really doesn't give up too many positions at all, or he doesn't get into. You know, he's another person that doesn't get into too many positions. You know.
What did you think was going to happen when Tony and TJ wrestled in the finals?
I thought, well, okay, so personally, I knew TJ. You know. He was a close friend of mine, you know. I mean, we, you know, broke bread together, you know, and it's like, you know, we wrestled together. We, you know, they put 30 minutes on the clock, and it's like I'm throwing everything I got, you know, the kitchen sink at his hips, and it's like nothing, zero, you know, no takedown, you know. I shoot, you know, I could shoot 25 times and not get a takedown, you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't think that Tony's going to be able to beat him, you know. I mean, I didn't think that, you know, I mean, maybe he could, but I didn't think it was, you know, TJ was head and shoulders above us. I thought, you know, at that point in our career, you know, he was a little bit bigger too.
Way bigger.
The next year he was, you know, 57.
Yeah, you look at that match of him and Tony. He looks a lot thicker.
Yeah, he was huge. I mean, they came to wrestle us, and we were supposed to wrestle because he was number one. He was ranked number one. I was ranked number two. And Iowa came to wrestle us. You know, we had a duel. You know, he had just wrestled in...
That's a huge duel.
Yeah, we were about to scrap, right? And he moved up to 57. They bumped him up to 57. He beat our 57 pounder. Then they moved Schwab up to wrestle me. You know? So it was like he was beating 57 pounders at 49. He was big.
He's big. Dude,
Yeah.
last question for you, man. When you look at like what Tony's done, coming from Englewood to getting kicked off Mount Carmel, to winning JUCOs twice, to winning D1s,
Yeah.
and to being Teacher of the Year. I mean, what is that? What kind of story is that? What is
Man, he's just a story of perseverance. I mean, it's like, you know, that's what he is. And, he was a great barometer to kind of like, you know, if you see that you're kind of like, you know, neck and neck with a guy like that, you know, you're in good company, you know what I mean? But yeah, just, you know, just a story of perseverance and growth mindset and, you know, just a model for young kids that, you know, from anywhere, you know, from all walks of life, you know, I mean, you can do it. You can do it, you know. It doesn't matter, you know, the hand that you get dealt, you know. You can, you know, you can make a success story, you know, from it, you know, so.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Wrestling Changed My Life. This episode was presented by Spartan Combat. Shop custom team apparel at SpartanCombat.com. And to watch the full video interview of this episode, go to Wrestling Changed My Life and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time. 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 We'll see you next time.